Hi, this is Chrisferb, and I'm going to review how to do an R correlation coefficient hypothesis test, and we'll end up using a t-distribution type of formula. Okay, we'll get started. Now, this test, it looks obvious because the question is, we're testing to see if the correlation coefficient is greater than 0. So it says, test the following data to find if the correlation coefficient is greater than 0. To a 5% level of significance, format your answer as a hypothesis. So it says R is 0.841, and then N is 15, and alpha is 0.05, which is the significance level. So it looks obvious. Like, why would we be testing this? Because R is obviously greater than 0. Well, the issue is the test is also testing respective to the sample size as well. So we have a small sample, so it's not just the value of R, it's also taking into consideration the sample size. Okay, so the formula that we use, and these P's are called rho, and so you see it's a slightly different P, and it's called rho. It's not the normal P that we use. Okay, this is the formula that we use for this one. So your degrees of freedom on this one are, it's always n-2 in this type of problem. So we'll start putting in some of our data here. So we have 0.841, and then 1 subtract 0.841, and then to the second power, and then 15 minus 2. And then we work that out a little bit more, and we end up with 0.841, and then we end up with, I'm just simplifying this a little bit, 2927, and then 13, and then I'll solve it. So you end up with 5.6047. Okay, so this is a one-sided test, and we're testing to see if it's greater than 0. I draw my distribution. Okay, and if we look at the alternative hypothesis, it's pointing to the right. So we're going to be working over here. And our rejection zone is over here on the right, if we're still using the rejection zone on this one. There's other ways to do this, but for this one I'm doing the rejection zone. So for this is our calculated statistic. That's our calculated statistic. So we need to figure out what our critical cutoff statistic is, where the beginning of this rejection zone starts. So we do this. We have T, so it's T, and then as I mentioned before, our degrees of freedom are n-2. So it's now for this one 15 minus 2, so we end up with 13. So we have 13 to the 0.05. And when we get out our t table, we find, let's see, it was 13, and it is a one-tailed test. 13, one-tailed test. So we end up with 1.771. I'm gonna back this out. It's okay. .771. So that's 1.771. And if we bring this down, we see it is greater than 1.771. So it is in our rejection zone. So what that means is we're going to reject H0, which tells us it looks like our correlation coefficient is greater than 0. Okay? Thank you.